Welcome to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, the show designed to help make middle age your prime time of life by defying the notion that once you reach 40, 50, or even 60 years old, your crowning achievements are all behind you. Regardless of whether you're just approaching 40 or firmly entrenched in your middle years, it's time to launch your very own personal journey toward a joyful and purpose-filled second half of life. Each week, host Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, will discuss the challenges common to middle age and help guide you to a brighter tomorrow. Now, here's Roy.
Well, hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age. Well, general conditions are beginning to improve slightly, but all of us remain challenged by COVID-19, despite the fact that the novel coronavirus remains very much among us. I hereby declare today's program a COVID-19 free zone. We're not going to talk about that at all today. First, I'm going to speak briefly about some tactics you can use to manage anger and nip it in the bud before it does harm to you, your relationships, or to those causing you anger. And later in the program, my guest is going to talk about the benefits of physical activity on your overall quality of life at any age. And he should know Dr. Bary Fleet completed his first triathlon at age 68 and continues to compete in triathlons now in his 70s. But first, the subject of anger. And before I get started, credit where credit is due, several of my thoughts and suggestions come from an article by Elizabeth Bernstein in the July 1st, 2020 edition of the Wall Street Journal. And I think we can all agree we're living in a time of great fury, and it isn't just about COVID-19. The strain is spilling over into our personal lives, fomenting hostility with friends, within our families, even strangers, and harming not just those we're angry at, but also our own emotional well-being and that of those around us. And we know that anger at times can be quite beneficial, but here's a commonly known fact: anger increases when anxiety increases. It's an active response to threat, real or imagined. And as one expert puts it, anger gives us drive, motivation, and purpose. That's the positive aspect of it. But the problem, internalizing too much anger for too long, can be highly destructive, especially when it's over an isolated incident that happened in the past, or it's over something that really isn't that harmful or important to us going forward. And especially harmful and unproductive is anger over something we can do little or nothing about, like something someone said over TV or the speech of a politician, perhaps one from a different state or congressional district that we can't even vote on. And here's the problem with this type of anger. Research has shown that anger can diminish our ability to understand and accept other folks' point of view, which obviously are just as important as our own. Angry people judge others more harshly than they judge themselves, and they share less with others than to have empathy with others' problems, and they don't have that, and it diminishes our ability to think strategically and broadly. Not to mention the harmful effects of sustained anger on ourselves. Anger can add to our stress and anxiety and help fuel strokes, heart attacks, even cancer. So how can you keep anger from consuming you? Well, many folks turn to exercise, meditation, or prayer, and if one or more of these work for you, turn to them whenever anger boils over. A couple of other suggestions: turn off the 24/7 news channels and turn on something fun or inspirational, or maybe no TV at all. A second thought, try spending more time around individuals who build you up, make you feel good, and less around those who tear you and others down, fellow angry folks. One lady espouses what she calls the hand scream. She covers her mouth with both hands, leans forward, then silently screams while shaking her hips back and forth. It's an attempt to move anger out of her head and into her hips and then goodbye. I haven't the slightest idea if the hand scream will work for you, but you might want to give it a try. And let me leave the subject of anger management by giving you 5 common anger management tips from experts. These are a little more, perhaps more practical than the hand scream. Tip number one is pinpoint the source of your anger. There are 2 types of anger when you think about it. Integral, where your anger is directly related to the situation or person at hand, the one you feel angry with. And then there's incidental, when you're provoked by one thing but feel mad and lash out at another. And the classic example of that, of course, is when you kick your dog after your spouse criticizes your behavior. And when people correctly idea the source of their anger, then they could think more strategically and cooperatively with others to solve it. Here's tip number 2. Think strategically and long term. Is your anger useful? If not, put it aside. If you decide to use your anger, channel it into something that you can control. The good part of anger, it gives you courage and energy. And if you're angry about your low pay, ask for a raise. If you're angry about a problem in your community, get involved with a cause and contribute what you can to make the situation better. And if you're mad with your spouse or with a friend over something, have that difficult conversation and get the issues out on the table so you can work on them. Here's tip number 3, calm your nervous system. What works for you? Go out for a walk, run, or bike ride. Spend time outdoors in nature, maybe just sitting on the porch, and meditate. We've had several prior programs on the benefits of this, and we won't try to get into details. Here's a simple one. Close your eyes and pay attention to the sensation of air passing in and out of your nostrils. Believe it or not, research has shown that breath-focused attention lowers activity in that part of the brain that processes fear and anxiety. And here's step number 4, reduce irritants. Often people's anger increases when they're physically uncomfortable or in pain. So make sure your chair, lighting, or bed is comfortable. And here's one for me: get rid of clutter or anything else in your surroundings that irritates you. I know I have a constant battle with clutter around my office and house. And here's the final one, number 5, reframe the story. This one makes so much sense. Approach someone who has made you mad with compassion. Is that person stressed or anxious? Probably over something, dealing with a difficult issue, one that has nothing to do with you. For example, is an irritating coworker going through a divorce, or is one of his kids in trouble? And once you account for other people's behavior, even if you learn it has something to do with you and something you can control, and once you try to understand them, you are less likely to blame others, and you can shift your anger to empathy, the way that we can get things done in this world for good. And I trust these 5 suggestions will help you to tame your anger. Always remember, these may be difficult and contentious times for every one of us, but you and only you are in control of how you react to them, and only you and no one else can help initiate a positive response. You are CEO of you. Never forget that. And so long as your focus is routinely on the future and you visualize and keep firmly in mind the picture of the joyful, purposeful, and successful person you can be and seek to become, and continually seek to benefit others as well as yourself in win-win resolutions, you will keep anger at bay in its proper place as a motivator to action for the greater good. Now let's move on to the benefits of exercise. Here's an interesting paradox. As the COVID-19 pandemic rages on, a number of folks have become less physically active, and some even have put on a few unwanted pounds. It's easy to understand why. A lot of gyms are closed or too scary to socially distance. And with so many workplaces closed, recreational team sports canceled, and social engagements limited, it's far too easy to sit on the couch at home in close proximity to the fridge and the pantry, overeating at mealtime and munching on snacks throughout the day. On the other hand, our country has witnessed an amazing increase in bike riding, jogging, and recreational walking, outdoor activities that can be accomplished alone or in small groups. And my basement window looks out on a bike trail, and it never ceases to amaze me the increased number of walkers, joggers, and bike riders compared to last year. So how about you? Have you become more or less active during the pandemic? Are you in better or worse shape now than you were back in February when the pandemic shutdown began? And how about some advice on how to become more active, healthy, and in excellent physical shape regardless of age and the present shape you're in? And perhaps you've been a confirmed couch potato for the past 10 to 20 years or more, but nothing tells you that you can't begin right now to get in shape so long as you proceed sensibly and follow the advice of your physician and don't overdo it and have a heart attack your first time out. Think of the benefits from being active and fit to your physical health, your emotions, your state of mind, and your resistance to disease, and help inspire you to transform from couch potato to physically fit, emotionally healthy. I've invited back a prior guest from our May 25th program, Dr. Bary Fleet. And you may recall that Dr. Fleet is a former minister, college professor, practicing psychologist, and author of the inspiring new book, Move Into Your Magnificence. And today we're going to concentrate on Dr. Fleet's amazing transition late in middle age. Never before an athlete, Dr. Fleet took up sports in his 60s, competed in his first triathlon at age 68, and celebrated his 70th birthday competing in the Spartan trifecta at Boston's Fenway Park. And Dr. Fleet is here to inform us what inspired him to get in shape, how he got started both sensibly and safely, and how he ultimately decided to compete successfully in this grueling sport of triathlon. And he'll also relay the personal benefits he has experienced from his new physically active lifestyle. More importantly, he's here to suggest how you and I can improve our physical health and mental well-being and spice up our lives by getting in shape at middle age. And no, to benefit from increased physical activity, unlike Bary Fleet, you don't have to become a triathlete or conquer the green monster at Fenway Park. We'll also preview once again Dr. Fleet's inspiring book, Move Into Your Magnificence, 101 Invitations to a Life of Passion and Joy. And hello, Dr. Bary Fleet. Welcome back to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age.
It can be. Thanks for having me, Roy. This is great. I really appreciate what you are about and great observations about so many more people are walking and jogging and riding bikes and finding ways of being active, given that the gyms are closed and the gyms that are open. I haven't had the courage to go to any of the open gyms yet. I'd rather be outside and relatively solitary.
Yeah, I like that too. But to begin, the last time I observed Fenway Park on TV, I didn't see a lake in the outfield, so I presume you left the park for the swimming portion of the Spartan trifecta.
Well, actually, the Spartan trifecta, there are actually three different levels of difficulty. There's what's called the Beast, the Super, and the Sprint.
Oh,
and the Fenway event was a sprint, and fortunately didn't have water to immerse ourselves in. What we did with water was get two big jerry cans full of water and carry those up and down one of the ramps at Fenway.
You didn't have to climb the Green Monster, though, did you?
We didn't climb the Green Monster, but we got to run across the top of it, which was really fun.
That'd be fun. Well, it sounds like a great sport, but, well, please take us back to the beginning. What event or events in your life first inspired you to not just get in shape, but ultimately become a triathlete?
So a couple of things. One, I guess the primary one is I was in my late 60s, semi-retired. Life was good, but life was good. That was kind of all there was to it. And one day I was scrolling on Facebook, which is not an exercise I would prescribe, and came across an ad for a sprint triathlon. And at that point, I didn't even know there was such a thing. All I knew about was the Hawaii Ironman.
Yeah.
And I had known about that for a long time and really admired the folks that could do that. Yeah. I knew that was way beyond anything that I could even contemplate. But when I started doing the research, I found out that there are, like the Spartans, there are 3 levels of triathlons. There is the Ironman, there's the Olympic, and there's the sprint.
And the Iron Man, also called the Nutty Man. Or a woman, I guess women could beat also.
But when I looked at the sprint, it's about a half a mile of open water swimming.
Oh,
and I thought, well, I know how to swim, and I've got a pair of swim trunks. And it's a little over a 12-mile bike ride, and I thought, well, I've got a bicycle.
Yeah.
And it's a 5K trail run, and I thought, well, I got sneakers. I can jog or at least walk it. This might be something I could do.
Yeah, I could do those, I think, if I had to. Sometimes 5K.
So I signed up for it. I also had, as I was, the older I got, the heavier I got. And one day, my son jokingly, partially, said, "Dad, you need liposuction with a shop vac," which was his way of gently pointing out to me that I was carrying around way more weight than I needed to be.
Not real gently.
So there was some incentive to lose some weight and get in shape, and then I saw this ad, and I saw that it came with you could also sign up and take courses for each of the 3 legs. The people that sponsored the triathlon also had a swim clinic and a running clinic and a biking clinic.
That's a good idea because you
can't just and in retrospect, I'm really glad that I signed up for those because I had my first full-scale panic attack ever in my life during the swim clinic.
Yeah.
Because I was in the water and I was thinking, what in the world am I thinking that I'm competing in a triathlon?
Yeah.
And
sometimes when you think about that, it's counterproductive.
It literally overwhelmed me to the point of panic. The irony is, there are 2 ironies in it. One is I was required to wear a wetsuit because for insurance purposes and the temperature of the water.
Yeah.
And when you're wearing a swimming wetsuit, it's like wearing a giant floaty.
Oh.
And
really.
combining that with the fact that I was swimming in the ocean, salt water, there is no way you can sink.
Oh.
Which just points out how panic attacks are often very irrational.
Yeah.
And the other funny part of that is, it just so happened that the tide was out, and had I thought about it, I could have actually stood up because the tide was out.
Yeah, that's not quite so scary when you can stand up.
but when I kind of dog paddled my way to where I knew I could stand up, and was in the throes of a terrible panic attack, it had certainly given me an appreciation for people that experience those on a more regular basis.
Yeah.
The woman running.
No, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead.
No, I just wondered how much total time elapsed between the start of your exercising and entry into your first triathlon.
So I started training for it around about 6 months.
Oh, well, that's pretty impressive.
So it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
I was pretty dedicated, but I probably didn't put in more than an hour or so a day, 5 days a week.
Now, where did you start from? Were you in fairly good shape before you started exercising, or did you have a long way to go?
I was not in terrible shape.
Yeah.
But I was certainly not in good shape by any means. I was carrying probably 20 or 25 extra pounds, and I had not been working out on a regular basis.
Yeah. How, if at all, did you alter your diet and sleep habits once you began your exercise regimen?
So I started paying much more attention to eating healthy.
Yeah.
Staying away. Well, didn't stay away. I have too much of a sweet tooth to say I stayed away. But I certainly monitored my intake of refined sugar products, and also paid attention to processed foods and eating foods in the most natural state.
Yeah. So how well did you do in the triathlon? Do they have like age groups like they do in a lot of these types of events? They
do have age groups, and I, in the first triathlon I did, I happened to be the oldest person there.
Oh, that's great.
And that allowed me to come in first in my age group because I was the only one.
First, last, and only.
That's it. Yes.
Well, but then I guess you were recognized and you joined an association of triathletes or something.
Yes, you have to. In order to participate, you have to be a member of the U.S. Triathlon Association.
Oh.
And for those who might be intimidated by that, you can actually buy a one-day pass if you think you're only going to do one event. But I went full in and bought with a membership, which it's a very modest investment, and it supports an organization that I admire.
Well, do you plan on continue competing in triathlons now that you're in your 70s? Is this okay with your primary physician?
Oh, absolutely, it's okay with my primary physician, and she encourages it, and she admires me for doing it. I really had I've done some other triathlons, and actually, as a result of the age group, finished first in the 70 to 75 age group, and as a result of that, actually was invited by the U.S. Triathlon Association to try out to represent the United States in the World Championships in Rotterdam that year.
Oh, that's great.
But I really, one of the things about triathlons is it's a very solitary sport.
Yeah.
You're swimming by yourself, you're biking by yourself, you're running by yourself.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And what I discovered in also doing the Spartan events is that there's much more camaraderie in the Spartan events.
Oh, I see.
And I really like training with other people, and I like doing the events with other people.
Yeah, I ran cross country in high school and college, and I love the camaraderie of being part of a team as opposed to running on your own.
Yeah, I wrote a blog one day about how much I hate running, and then one Tuesday night, the gym that I go to has a trail run, an outside trail run that's anywhere from 3 to 5 miles, depending on your stamina and ability level. And I found myself being really excited that it was Tuesday night. I can go do a trail run. And it struck me, wait a minute, I just wrote a blog about how much I hate running, and now I'm looking forward to going running. What's going on here? And I realized that it's about the camaraderie.
Yeah, you're expanding your horizon. Something you thought you'd hate, you might learn to really enjoy.
So I don't like running by myself.
Yeah.
But I like running with other people.
Oh, that's great. That is a lot of fun.
Yeah, so tonight's Tuesday, and at 5 o'clock I'll be at the trailhead, and anywhere from 10 to 15 of us will start out together, but we'll separate into ability groups, and I call myself a member of the pack of the turtles. I kind of bring up the rear along with some other folks that are not quite as old as I am, but are in their 60s and above.
I see. Well, they always call Mitch McConnell a turtle. I guess he'd join your group.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a bit about your message. Not everyone is into athletics, certainly not triathlons, but your primary message is that every person, including you and me, has an inner magnificence regardless of past experience and current circumstances. And over the past 30 years, through motivational speaking, transformative workshops, consulting, and success coaching, you've inspired thousands to discover that magnificence. And back on our May 25th program, and folks can go back and listen to that through our program website, we introduced you to Bary Fleet's brand new book, Move Into Your Magnificence, 101 Invitations to a Life of Passion and Joy. And Bary's book offers a series of 101 short personal articles and conversations on life, followed by an invitation to action. And Bary Fleet guarantees that if you follow up on his invitations, you'll discover your own path of passion, purpose, and joy. And to close today's program on a high note, Bary, can you cite for us one of your 101 short topics, the message it provides, and the invitation to action you include?
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is actually about my granddaughter.
Oh.
She was 5 at the time, and she and her mom were outside waiting for the school bus to come to take her to kindergarten.
Yeah.
And they were standing there, and Gwen turned to her mom and said, "Mom, do you smell that?" And Christy said, "Well, Gwen, what do you smell?" And she said, "Just an ordinary awesome day."
I love that.
And I thought, what a wonderful state of mind to be, that you're starting a day, you got the full day ahead of you, and you're outside waiting for the bus.
Yeah.
And as you're breathing, you are consciously aware of an ordinary awesome day.
Let's hope and pray that 5-year-old retains that awesome feeling throughout her life. So often little kids have it, and then they lose it as they are picked on and, told all their limitations and all the other stuff that goes on. Absolutely. And you're right. When we are 2 or 3, we know that we are magnificent. Yeah. But there was a study, I think it was the University of Iowa, that showed that 2-year-olds are told no over 400 times a day. And they're given positive affirmations about 12 times a day. Oh, great. Well, what the average 2-year-old is doing is just being the average 2-year-old and being themselves and exploring the world. And when you get scolded for being yourself, you gradually lose the sense of your magnificence. I mean, so what was the invitation you added at the end of your story of your granddaughter? That was so the invitation. The invitation is to wake up and go outside and smell the air, and just know that you are in the beginning phases of an ordinary awesome day. Yeah. And if you go through your day with that mentality, when you go to bed at night, you'll be able to put your head on the pillow and say, "I feel good about being me." Yeah, instead of dreading what you have to do during the day, look at all the awesome possibilities. I remember the last time you were on, you mentioned a cab driver who had that awesome outlook on who she'd meet and where she'd get to go and that kind of thing, rather than just complaining about the traffic.
Yeah. And I had another quick incident, if we have time. I was in the grocery store, a supermarket, and there's a guy in front of me that had two items, and in his hand he had two $1 bills. And as he was waiting to pay, he accidentally dropped one of the dollars. And somebody else in the line saw it and pointed it out to him, and he picked it up and he smiled. He thanked the gentleman who pointed it out, and he turned to me and he held up the $2 and kind of rubbed them together, and he said, "This is all I have." And I thought, I have never been in a situation where all I had was literally $2 bills to rub together, and that's what I had to use. That was my budget for the grocery store.
Wow.
But this guy, he had such a pleasant expression on his face. He profusely thanked the man who pointed out to him, and he was happy to show me that he had $2 to spend.
Yeah.
and I thought, we so tend to focus on what we don't have, and we make ourselves miserable looking at what we don't have. But this guy with his $2 had all he needed to buy the food he needed for the day, and he was happy and content with that.
So many of us sit around and complain about being going through this pandemic, and yet when we think about it, if we have enough money to live on and we're secure financially and aren't about to lose our jobs or whatever, we should feel ourselves extremely blessed that we have that.
It's a great reminder to me that, as I say, happiness is an inside job.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's based on how we choose to perceive our situation and the world around us.
Yeah.
And when we can look at our world and see everything for which we have to be grateful.
Yeah.
When we can look and see our blessings instead of all the things that are wrong and all of the things we don't have, it just makes so much difference in how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our life.
Yeah, the world can do things we don't like, but you and you alone control how you react to it and what you look forward to and how you approach life. And that's such a great message from your book. Where's the best place to preview and purchase your book, Move Into Your Magnificence?
So you can buy my book any place that books are sold. Local bookseller, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, they all have access to my book. Or you can get in touch with me at my website, which is www.drbary, Bary, Fleet.com.
And you're the guy with one R in your Bary.
I'm the guy with one R. Yes, it looks wrong.
Yeah.
And Roy, I will say that if anybody that's listening to this would like to reach out to me through my website, I'll be happy to offer a free half-hour coaching session to help folks wherever they are move more into their magnificence.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, but glad you did, because that sounds like a great free offer, and I'm sure if we talked for half an hour, I'd probably retain you. So that would be a very good idea for people to check that out. Well, in conclusion, you'll discover from Dr. Bary Fleet's book and his website that your inner magnificent is not really that different from the Christian concepts of Holy Spirit or God within, that spiritual connection inside every one of us. And yet, although the magnificence is right within, so many of us struggle through life without purpose or direction. And Bary compares those of us unaware to a geode, a small hollow rock, unimpressive on the outside, but when cracked open, it reveals fabulously beautiful crystals lining the inside wall. And I highly recommend Bary Fleet's book to help you crack open your rock to reveal all the wonder within, your inner magnificence, and your connection to the ultimate power of the universe, which is comprised of love and creation. And thanks, Dr. Bary Fleet, for returning, and best of success with your book, your coaching, your workshops, and the next triathlon you enter, and I'll be cheering from the finish line. And thanks to all of you out there for listening and discovering more reasons why middle age can be your best age. Talk with you again next time. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Middle Age Can Be Your Best Age, hosted by Roy Richards, an expert on midlife renewal and author of both A Midlife Challenge, Wake Up, and Wake Up, Captain and Crew, Restart Your Engines. You can learn more about Roy and his middle age renewal training system by visiting his website, middleagerenewal.com.